Welcome to the greatest podcast in the Western Hemisphere. In this corner, hailing from St. Louis, Missouri, the undisputed but never diluted, gut-busting circus of mayhem, Blue World Order!
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Blue World Order podcast. I'm Josh Hyman.
I'm Joey Palazola.
And I'm Thomas Welch.
Today we'll be talking about the NHL Awards Show, the entry draft, prospect camp, the Blues free agents, as well as taking some of your Twitter questions. All right, so first things first, NHL Awards. What'd you guys think?
I think Doug Armstrong absolutely got robbed of GM of the Year. I'm not going to lie. I think he proved himself in the Stanley Cup final against the GM of the Year award winner, Don Sweeney of the Boston Bruins. Sweeney made the two good trades at the deadline, acquiring Marcus Johansson and Charlie Coyle from the Minnesota Wild. But, I mean, you cannot argue, in my opinion, that Doug Armstrong did not make this team that much better over last summer from the acquisitions of David Perron, Tyler Bozak, Patrick Maroon, and obviously the Conn Smythe winner, Ryan O'Reilly. I think, in my opinion, Doug Armstrong got robbed. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, just going off of that, like, the consensus for the offseason, like, everyone just talked about how the Blues, like, made themselves, like, they were a contender before, but they really made themselves, like, a Stanley Cup favorite with all the moves that they did. Like, you even had guys like Connor McDavid saying, like, he expected the Blues to, like, go for the Stanley Cup or win the Stanley Cup. So I think just with the hype that surrounded it, with everything that went on throughout the season and everyone saying Blues should make a trade, like people talking about trading Tarasenko, trading Pietrangelo, blowing everything up and going after the rebuild, I think for him to stay even keel and trust in his guys and trust in the moves he made prior. And even just going off the O'Reilly trade itself, like you literally traded all of your cap space away and still managed to get the best player in the deal. Like,
right.
He's a magician, honestly. And like the fact that,
The Blues gained
the fact that he didn't get recognition for it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the Blues gained cap space from the O'Reilly deal, which in itself is ridiculous. But also one thing that like really impressed me about Doug Armstrong is when the Blues were in last place, he put full blame on himself. I remember like the interview soundbite where he goes, "It's my fault. You know, the team I put out there isn't performing up to standards. You know, blame me." But at the same time, he didn't blow things up. He was patient. He trusted the team, and of course, eventually, you know, he made the right moves. Fired Mike Yeo, hired the new coach, Craig Berube, interim, whatever, and next thing you know, Stanley Cup champions. Obviously, don't take playoffs into account when it comes to voting in the awards, which is unfortunate, but I just think it goes to show that even heading into the playoffs, a lot of analysts had the Blues out in the first round, you know, in a short series. I just think it goes to show that, you know, until we lifted that cup above our heads, everybody was still doubting us. You know, Bruins in 4, we won a game. Bruins in 5, we won another game. Bruins in 6, you know, they never learned. And then once Petro was raising that cup over their head, people were like, I guess the Blues aren't that bad, are they? So I just think it's a reflection of that. And, you know, I tweeted out on award night, oh darn, you know, we're 1 for 5 in awards tonight. But at the end of the day, we're the only one with the Stanley Cup in our city. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother me too much.
It doesn't bother me really, because like you said, like, getting the Stanley Cup is the ultimate goal, and no one really cares about. I mean, not that no one cares about the individual awards; they're just like kind of like cherries on top. But it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Not just solely like the individual awards, just the fact that like NBC and like just national like hockey guys across the board just never give the Blues like any credit. And like even you go on YouTube and watch like the slow-mo videos, you're hard pressed to find like a Blues player in the regular season ones unless like the teams dwindle down and they're in the playoffs. It's just little stuff like that like grinds my gears. And I think that above everything else is what pissed off Blues fans is because like even when we win the Stanley Cup and the Blues have a historic season that rivaled like what the 2011 Cardinals did, and it's like just so much history being made, they still can't give us credit with like the awards and stuff. So I think what you're saying is correct, but and it would have been nice to have the individual ones too.
Last to first, at this point, like I've accepted the fact that what do you want Berube and Armstrong to do to win that award? You know, they went from they went from last to first. Like you literally could not have had a harder challenge. So it really comes down to the fact that I think there is a bit of big market bias in that sense, but at the same time, I feel like sure, Don Sweeney walks home with that award he can put in his trophy case, but at the end of the day, people respect what Armstrong did. You saw Ryan Reeves on Spit and Chicklets. He gave his opinion on it. I don't think it's a matter of. I think we have people's attention now as a team. I think maybe the media still doesn't give us full credit, but I think finally we kind of the casual fan is kind of like, okay, I see what this team can do. I respect them now. I definitely got that vibe.
I think just touching off of that, like that's another like pin in Armstrong's laurels, I guess, is like, so for all this time, like you've tried to just put all this talent together and like create a team that's talented enough to get you to the playoffs and get you through the playoffs. And I think this year's offseason specifically, I mean, obviously the O'Reilly trade, you're getting an extremely talented player, but I think his focus on the free agents was getting guys who actually wanted to play here, as opposed to like just like the most talented guy on the market. So, I mean, in a sense, you could argue that David Perron and Pat Maroon could be like the most valuable acquisitions to this team this year, just because you just saw the night and day difference between what this team was when like Hitchcock and all those guys were coached, and Mike Yeo even, just like individual contractors, wasn't really like, they were close, but they weren't as close as they are now. And now like under Berube, just like brought everybody together. And even just watching the videos of Pat Maroon in the locker room, like saying like, I love playing hockey with my best friends, go fight for my boys and stuff. Like it really is like a brotherhood in there and like almost a fraternity. And I think that was underestimated in like teams past. And I think agree. Moving forward, like it's nice that we don't have a lot of free agents from like our core, but like I think keeping this team together would pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I think the individual contractors way was a perfect way to put it. I know it had been, reports of that had come out that a lot of guys were not necessarily just playing for themselves, but playing on their own. And yeah. And, we had some good players, but it was very, 5 guys on the ice, 5 guys playing their own game, and when this team was buzzing, when this team was at its full potential, you could just see it. They were working together. They were playing as one unit. They weren't playing as 5 players out there. They were playing as a unit. And you saw, like you said, the videos of Pat Maroon walking out. I love going to war with you boys. These are my best friends. Love my best friends. Like stuff like that. Where maybe he's not the flashiest player. Maybe he doesn't score 40 goals a year, stuff like that. But it's guys like him that are crucial to deep playoff runs. It's obviously you love to have guys like Tarasenko and O'Reilly who go out there, put up the points, but then you need the Pat Maroons, the Robert Bortuzos, the guys who can fire up a locker room, the guys who can give that rousing speech, just keep the team gelled together. And I think that's why when you maybe like say, oh, Pat Maroon, really underperforming, and then you look playoffs at it, five months later. I at the beginning of the playoffs, I think we all touched on. We're all like, those guys are going to be crucial if the Blues want to have a deep playoff run. Sure enough, who gets the double OT winner against Dallas? Who gets the game-winning goal with 15 seconds left against? I think it was either Winnipeg or Dallas. Pat Maroon scored one with like in the dying minute.
I think that was game 2. I think game 1 or game 2. I think it was.
Yeah, it's stuff like it was Dallas because Lindell flopped again. I remember that.
Yeah. yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree with what you're talking about. It's just like, you need those talented guys, but also like the glue guys, they call them or whatever, just to like hold everything together and like keep the locker room sane and like just kind of like pick their heads up when they're feeling down, stuff like that. And I feel like we had a lot of those guys in our locker room, and it was really cool to watch.
Yeah.
Speaking of picking their heads up when they were down, how about the fact that this team is night and day different compared to years past whenever they face adversity? Not only the record whenever they're following a loss and such stuff like that, but like how about like the hand pass, for instance? How do you on home ice with that opportunity just blown away like that, how do you come back to respond in not only the next game but just go on to win the rest of the series, the rest of the games in the series? And then let's flash forward to the Stanley Cup Final Game 6 in St. Louis. You got the first possible cup clinching game in St. Louis, without a doubt. And they come out, and we obviously know what happens there. They got killed. Like, how did they have the mental ability to just bounce back time and time after again is absolutely incredible to me. And that's one of the main differences I see in Craig Berube and Ken Hitchcock, and honorable mention Mike Yeo, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I just, this team is incredible when they face adversity, and especially when their backs are against the wall. That's one of the main things that stood out to me in this cup run, especially.
I mean, yeah, this team was, I mean, if you want to put that, was created out of adversity. This playoff run was created. It lasted in the NHL. It doesn't. You can't face much more adversity than that. And you know, they how do they respond to that? They set the franchise record win streak. Like it's from the beginning. It's been adversity respond, and you know, past Blues teams, it's been adversity crumble.
Yep.
They've faced adversity. They've folded. They've turtled. They've been like, all right, we'll get them next year. But I was, after that hand pass, I was almost as confident in the series as I would have been if they had won, because with the way that you know, watching the Blues team for the season leading up to that, you knew they weren't going to be going to the locker room like, oh dang, really got a tough one there. Oh well, you saw Braden Shen slamming his stick against the board.
Slamming the glass. Yeah, you can see it on the ice, right?
The one time Jordan Binnington showed emotion, the entire playoffs was flipping out at the refs after that. You knew they were going into the locker room with a fire. You knew they were pissed, and I could just feel it. I could just say, all right, they're not losing another game. And sure enough, they outscored them like 15-2 for the rest of the series or something ridiculous like that. Speaking of the skill players, though, we can't let it go unnoticed that Ryan O'Reilly took home the Selke Trophy. The one award we did win. It was a big one.
Yeah.
And that's a big award, right?
Yeah, those three guys at the top of that list, Mark Stone, Patrice Bergeron, and O'Reilly, are just absolute catalysts for all of their teams. And I don't remember how many takeaways Mark Stone had this year. I think it was like 120 something, but just like an insane amount. And obviously Patrice Bergeron is a guy year in and year out that's going to be a finalist for that award. So the fact that O'Reilly won that over those guys is even more rewarding and impressive. So
how about a hot take question for a second, topping on that? Would we say those are the three top defensive forwards in the NHL period, let alone this year?
Yes.
Or do we have to include the Kopitars and Tazes of the world?
No.
I'd say top three of those guys for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Safe to say those are top five?
Yeah. Just, I feel like those guys are top three just because of, like, in terms of consistency. Like, it's just always a part of their game. And, like, I agree. I feel like Kopitar is good defensively, but there's times when he's not. But
yeah, and then I feel like you also got guys like Barkov creeping his way into that conversation.
Oh, that's a big name there too.
Yeah, and he's still young, so I'm sure he's gonna be in that awards race for a while. But I mean, O'Reilly, he's 28, so he got his one Selke, and usually what you see with guys like that is once they get there first, they're kind of mainstays in that conversation. So before this year, on a team like Buffalo not getting the recognition, but I guarantee you he he gets at least one more win before he retires, and I bet he's in that top 3 consistently for years to come.
And he's only the second person in NHL history to win the Conn Smythe and the Selke Award in the same season. I think the other one was Bob Gainey. But I was telling this to someone on Twitter the other day. I think that's something not to look over. He's 27, 28 years old right now. He could very well do it next year too. The coming years, like you said, the Selke thing. Once you win it, you kind of just stay there in the top 3-5 mentions. That's something to keep an eye on. He might be the first one to ever break that record for the second time, but we'll see.
100%. And you just it's just, oh my God, dude. Just this whole season, Bob Gainey was 1940 or something ridiculous?
I think it was a little later. I think it was the 60s, 70s, I think.
Yeah. Well, still, it's just records being broken left and right. You look at all the records that Binnington broke. It's holy shit, dude. 16 consecutive wins over guys like Ron Hextall. I don't even know who else, but just historic names, Hall of Famers left and right going down to the 2019 St. Louis Blues.
It's crazy because unless Gary Bettman's hey, we're adding an extra playoff round or something like that, Jordan Binnington will forever be at least first or tied for first for rookie goalie playoff wins. That is absurd. Yeah. That
Always,
means in 200 years, when your great grandkids are reading the Wikipedia page on goalies, if they look at rookie goalies in the playoffs, Jordan Binnington's name will be there at number 1. That's insane. And he was in the AHL 5 months ago. Almost went down to the ECHL, but he was nah, I'm better than that. And sure enough,
he literally said, "Fuck you, I'm not doing that." I'm well, okay.
Literally 4th on the depth chart in the entire organization at the beginning of the year, behind Jake Allen, Chad Johnson, Billy Husso, and then you got Jordan Binnington. Incredible, man.
Just flew past all of them.
All right, so on that note, I think we can move forward about a week past the awards. We had the NHL draft a few nights ago. Blues made a couple picks, but first of all, I want to touch on, sort of the wider league perspective. Jack Hughes, Capo Caco, number 1, but then Bowen Byram drops to number 4, adding to a very scary Colorado D line.
Yeah.
Let's.
Oh,
that's just scary. I don't even want to mention the thought of that.
Yeah, I got a bit ratioed on Twitter with when I said Colorado was a few years away from contending. I've had many Avalanche fans in my
next year could be the year. Yeah.
And I will admit that I got that one wrong. I think they're a little scarier than I gave them credit for. Yeah. But holy, have my mentions been reminding me of that.
I'm almost positive they have a lot of cap space to do some damage with in the offseason too as well.
And that first line is nutty.
Yeah, that first line is incredible. I think they're really targeting that second line center position. Joe Pavelski's names came up, I'm pretty sure, with Colorado.
Please keep him out of the Central.
Yeah, no.
His names came up with the Blackhawks too. Jesus Christ.
He's a Blues killer. And
yeah, exactly.
I don't.
All right.
Also, I'm going to watch every Devils game next year. That shit's going to be so much fun.
The Devils are going to be a fun team to watch on ice next year.
Taylor Hall and Jack Hughes on the same line.
Yeah, Taylor Hall kind of just disappeared this year. It got to the point where I was like, oh yeah, he's been injured all year because it was undisclosed. No one really was talking about it. Devils were kind of just meandering along, in the bottom of the league. And I'm like, I wonder why that is. And I'm like, oh yeah, Taylor Hall has played 10 games. Yeah. He just won the Hart Trophy 2 years ago. And they just added Jack Hughes. They got another number 1 pick in Hischier. They just added Subban. If Corey Schneider,
they got Will Butcher.
Will Butcher. If Corey Schneider can even become half of what he used to be, that team's gonna be scary.
I'll tell you what. Honestly. All they really need to do is trade for Jake Allen, they might go to the Stanley Cup. So
yes, if you're listening, Ray Shero, if you're listening, Jake Allen, he could lead you to the promised land.
Yeah,
that goes for anybody. I don't care if it's KHL, anywhere, whoever's listening. Jake Allen will bring you a trophy, I promise.
Yes, sir.
I don't care if it's a 7th round pick at this point.
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, no, but mad respect for Jake Allen and the way he handled.
In all honesty, yeah, we are kind of messing around, but especially in his playoff run, we've seen it at times. We all know the whole story about him, I guess,
Another goal.
like folding under pressure in a way you could say. I don't like throughout seasons of years past, but he really did come together, and he's a very underrated factor in this Cup run, especially with Jordan Binnington behind closed doors. The way he's prepared him and just took it all like a pro, which is actually really cool to watch in a way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
And just like, even like, just looking back to the series against Minnesota, it's just like he's capable of playing like top tier goaltender, and I think, if you give him like a sustained and like intense workload, it might get to him a little bit, and like mentally he's gonna struggle sometimes. Like our fans like just cheer when he makes easy saves and stuff. Like that's gonna get to anybody, and I think he deserves a fresh start. But yeah, definitely like in terms of like a backup, I think he could very well be the best backup in the league.
Right, definitely. And you saw that when Elliott was still around and he was sort of a 1A, 1B situation. He flourished in that. And that's why I think if the Blues don't get rid of Allen this offseason, I think that's great. I'm completely
fine with that too.
Because Jordan Binnington, he was great. He was amazing, record-setting, but he's played 33 NHL games, like
39 games.
33 regular season, whatever, something like that. And there's a chance that he, regresses a little bit. And I think having a guy like Jake Allen versus a guy like Ville Husso to sort of catch that, I think that would be really important, because Jake Allen, we've seen it, he can go stretches of like 10, 15 games of dominance, of looking like a solid NHL starter, but then he also can have stretches of, 10 to 30 games where he looks like he belongs in the AHL. And that's why I think for at least the Blues, it's really good to have sort of a good system of two solid goalies. And touching back on the draft, I think you saw the Blues had 5 picks. They took 2 goalies, and a lot of people were like, that's weird. Why'd they do that? We have now 7. And Doug Armstrong himself said it's the one position in the NHL that's the least consistent, and we always want to have our cupboard full of goalies. We always want to have tons of goalies ready to go. And look at that. You saw Jordan Binnington, who was 4th on our depth chart. Guys like Ville Husso were probably ahead of him. Husso gets hurt. Binnington gets called up. Binnington leads us to our first Stanley Cup. So goalies are weird. That's my take on goalies. They're not consistent. You can't trust them. So I again, cap hit on Jake Allen, a little high, but I have no problem with keeping him around.
And that's a good point to touch on right there. Let's say his cap hit is $2.5 million. There's not even a question about trading him. He's going to be he's set in backup 1B goalie. It's the fact that he's making $4.3 million on the cap hit, to where we'll talk on later in the show, potentially next year, where that could be a big factor. Yeah. But we don't want to say names, Shen or Pietrangelo. But we'll talk to that later. But I really think that the Blues are going to be in a weird spot with this situation. Jake Allen's 28 years old. Like I said, $4.35 million cap hit. I think he's going to get moved. That's just my opinion. I think he's going to get moved. I think honestly, the return on him, what do we think? 3rd, 4th round pick, maybe? I mean, medium tier prospect. I don't think they're going to ask for a whole ton. I really think it'll be they're trying to get rid of that cap hit. I mean, especially for this year, if they want to do some maneuvering around, and next year especially.
Yeah. And what sucks about, I think Jake Allen's going to get traded too, and I think it will be for draft capital. I'm fine with moving him for draft capital, just because with 2022 coming up, that's when a lot of our big contracts ends, and a lot of our guys, like with the core now, will be either out or their contract ends then. So I'm guessing 2022 is going to be a rebuilding year for the Blues. So just like stockpiling picks before that happens, and stockpiling prospects before that happens, is obviously a good move in my opinion. But yeah.
Touching on that, you got Alexander Steen, you got Jaden Schwartz, you got Tyler Bozak, Robert Thomas. We already know he's going to get big praise. And then We got Jake Allen at the end of 21-22. So that's 5-6 steady guys right there, let alone who knows what happens this year where they acquire a guy, for example, Braden Shin, when we acquired him with term left on his contract, and Ryan O'Reilly, for instance. Maybe they bring in a guy with another 2 years left that expires in that same 21-22 season. That could be something to look at for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think with teams like St. Louis, rebuilding years, quote unquote, aren't like rebuilding years that we see with more bottom of the basement teams where, you know, you see tanking. I'd almost argue that last year when we missed the playoffs was a rebuilding year.
A retool, I think that's a better word for it. Retool.
Retool. I don't think 2021-22 is going to be a rebuilding year, retooling year for sure, because Robert Thomas isn't going anywhere.
No.
No, he'll be blue for a long time.
We'll have plenty of future podcasts where we talk about his Selke trophies there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh.
Hot take Joey.
I'll put that one on record. Robert Thomas will win a Selke trophy in his career.
Clip that.
Right,
someone clip that and tweet it.
Write it down.
When Robert Thomas
send it into Old Takes Exposed. Do whatever you got to do.
Yep. Tweet it at Joey every single time that the Selke Awards go by and Robert Thomas does not win one. Just tweet that at Joey.
How about this? Within 5 years, one trophy within 5 years. How about that? There it is. Mark it down.
I'll go hot take. We can just do a hot take corner right here if you guys want to real fast.
Okay.
Let's go real quick.
I'll go hot take. Dominic Bach will be an all-star before his career's over.
Ooh, okay.
I'm gonna completely agree to where that's not a hot take in my opinion. I think you're sold on that one.
I agree. He's shown flashes. Let's see.
I cannot wait to see what he does this week.
Me neither.
Hot take: Tarasenko breaks 50 goals at least once. He's got it. He's got it.
I like it.
It's bound to happen.
I feel like it'll probably. You know what's probably going to happen is he'll probably pull an Ovechkin play till he's like 64, and he'll get it like probably in like his later years because he'll have like Rob Thomas on the same line as him, just getting him like filthy passes.
And he'll still be about 90,000 points short of Wayne Gretzky still, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he'll play till he's 64 and won't even touch any of those records.
Yeah.
Right. That's just insane.
That's great. All right, I can't wait for all of us to get absolutely roasted when none of those things happen.
Oh no, it's happening. All of them. Let's go.
All right.
You think Binnington will win a Vezina?
Ooh.
That's a very good question. That is a very good question. I'm gonna say
after half the season of play, what do you think?
Ask me in 365 days because we have not seen a full season workload. As well as what everything happened, we have not seen a full 60-plus game workload for him.
Yeah,
that's a big question.
He got votes for the Hart this year.
He got votes.
He was
fifth. He was fifth in Vezina. He was fifth in Vezina voting.
God Almighty.
So I mean, if Jordan Binnington plays, if he keeps up the play that he had this season over a full season, absolutely he wins a Vezina. But
how would you like to be Jordan Binnington's agent in this summer? Eh? We'll get there. We got plenty to talk about on that.
All right. Okay, so back to the draft. Second round pick, center, reliable two-way sort of guy. Armstrong gave him Alexandrov. Yes. Armstrong gave him Tyler Bozak comparisons. What do you guys think? I liked the pick. I was a big fan of it.
61 points in 64 games.
I mean, honestly, he kind of reminds me of Dominic Bach a little bit. Just the way like he's got soft mitts.
He is German born. He's
got a hard shot. I don't think maybe not to the same level because Dominic Bach's like 1v1 skills are absolutely ridiculous. And last year at prospect camp, I didn't see him like mess up a single deke. So there's that to go off of. But I think Alexandrov could definitely make some waves in our organization to move up really fast.
Thomas has got.
I think Bach could be a like a poor man's Patrick Kane in a way. As much as we all hate him, but I really see that skill set of Dominic Bach. Maybe this is a better comparison. Maybe like a poor man's Nikita Kucherov in a way. Eh? How about that?
Wow.
Drunk.
And poor man's Nikita Kucherov is about an 80-point scorer. So maybe that's a bit of a reach.
Wow.
I mean,
I'm speaking skill set, though. I am. I'm just speaking skill set. He's a smooth skater, good vision of the ice. Dominic Bach, if you haven't seen him play, I highly suggest you go out to Enterprise Center for Prospect Camp. This man is going to make that ice melt with his explosiveness. This guy is just smooth as silk, I promise you.
That's exactly what he is too. He's a silky little fuck, and just the way he like weaves in and out of the defense. Like he only weighs $180 right now, so like scouts are gonna say like we want him to put on weight. Honestly, like I think it's better if he doesn't, because he can fit in so many tight spaces in between like the D-man, and his hands are so smooth. Like you think you've got him locked up, and then he's just past you, and then he's in on goal.
So are we thinking like a Tarasenko Thomas Bach line in the future? Is that what
I was literally about to say?
Yes.
That. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, Dominic Bach and Robert Thomas on the same line.
God,
that is just edge work.
You got Robert Thomas to make those passes, be reliable in both zones. You got Tarasenko with that heavy shot, and then you got Bach to provide that speed and that explosiveness. Oh boy,
Bach's good on the 1T too, so he's just gonna fucking fire those home all day.
He can be on that off wing along with Tarasenko. Bach is a right-handed shot, plays left wing and right wing. You want to talk about improving the power play? Let's wait about 3 years down the road. Eh?
Yeah, put two snipers on there, see what happens. God.
That'll be.
Boy.
Oh my God.
Right. And he is 6'2". He is 6'2". He's got the size. I see top 6 forward out of him for sure. Right. I think he's got written all over him.
Especially like even last season, he still had good stats. I think he had it was like 8 goals, 15 assists, so 23 points in 47 games played. But he didn't get all that much like ice time. It was like the Vax
towards the end. Towards the end, he was getting scratched a little bit. I mean, so I'm definitely excited to see what he can do. And I guess further in the draft, we drafted 2 goalies. We kind of touched on that. So I guess we can kind of. Continue to transition into prospect camp. I know you guys are talking about Bach, but I mean, I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm not going to fly down to St. Louis to watch that. But I know you guys are going to try to make it to a couple. Who else are you excited to see there?
Go ahead. You take this stage here because I got a big one.
I don't know if excited is the right word. I'm excited. I am excited. I'm excited to see Klim Kostin play, just because I want to see how he bounces back after the season he had. So, for any of you guys who didn't keep up with Klim Kostin this year, he had 10 goals, 14 assists, so 24 points in 66 games played. He had. How do I phrase this right?
Better rookie numbers, 28 points in 67 games.
Yeah.
So he had better numbers as a rookie.
His plus minus was a minus 26 or something, and that was second worst on the team behind Jake Wallman. And he led the team in penalty minutes with 102 or something like that. So I think just important for him coming into prospect camp. I don't think there's anything holding back his offensive play from playing in the NHL. I really don't. He's built like a bull. He's strong on the puck. Kind of like when we see Tarasenko put one hand on it and lean into the guys. That's kind of like the play style that Klim will bring. His board work is fine. He's got a heavy shot. He's good on like breakaways and stuff. He can beat you with a deke or just plow through you. But I think his discipline, because obviously like people are going to get pissed off out there. And I think we saw it at the World Juniors. Klim's probably get pissed more than anybody. But I think channeling that energy into like just playing well and disciplined instead of just taking penalties is something he needs to focus on. And then obviously his defensive work is going to need an uptick. But other than that, I think he's ready for the NHL.
And I know we got a guy like Kyrou, who's past prospect camp. He's not even attending it this year, so I think that's a good sign for fans of him. Sorry, Joe, I cut you off. You weren't done with.
No,
Austin.
You're good. Keep touching. You're good.
All right, but anyways, yeah. So I think to sort of move away from prospect camp a little bit, I think Jordan Kyrou, a guy that we were maybe a little disappointed, didn't see the lineup this year, but the fact that he wasn't even a question not going to prospect camp this year, I think Blues fans can be pretty excited about that he's probably going to make the lineup day one, and
I'm
hopefully stick around longer
about
than he
his
did.
Because he's getting surgery.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I feel like he's making the right moves to get towards the team. So
another guy I'm looking to keep an eye on. We all know my guy is Clem Costin. That's said and done, but you guys did a good job topping on him. Another guy that I think that a lot of people are going to really turn heads this year. He did last year, but he will turn heads this year, and that's Alexei Toropchenko. This guy is going to be a big year ahead for him. He had a so-and-so regular season kind of transitioning over in his second season. He had 43 points in 62 games, including 17 goals. But the playoff run that this man had was Jordan Bennington-like. I'm not exaggerating. This guy –
couple hat tricks, didn't he?
Not only he had like a first goals period, in the OHL final, I think.
Yeah, he had like a first period hat trick in game one.
First period hat trick. The guy's 6'3", 200 pounds. He's already got the NHL frame. Speedy winger. I cannot wait to watch this guy develop this year. I think the two most important players for the upcoming season, they need to have a good year, is Alexei Toropchenko and Clem Costin. I think Toropchenko is a better bet, obviously, because he's coming off his crazy run he just had. But Clem Costin, he's developing. I'm personally not really looking at the number side of things when it comes to Costin, because I already know the guy is an NHL talent. I've said that since day one, since they drafted him. He's an NHL talent. He should have been a top 10 pick if it weren't for the injuries and such and the injury year. I'm not worried about the numbers. I see it is a concern that he's getting 24 points and the minus is minus 28, and the penalty minutes are. I'm not worried about that at all. I love his grit to his game. He can drop the gloves. He can put the body on. I just want to see how he transitions this year, because I don't think he's going to make the club this year. I think he'll get called up at one point. I've already went on record saying that. I think we will see Clem Costin's NHL debut this season. I think next year is when he's going to get his real shot. I think Jordan Kyrou, almost the same way. I think Kyrie's a little more ready than Costin at the moment, only because of his skating. Kyrie's an exceptional skater and vision, offensive ability. But we have already seen what guys like Sammy Blais and Mackenzie McEachran, these guys can come up and they can just bang bodies. I mean, that could easily be Clem Costin next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He fits our team schematic to a T. Just like physical bang bodies, but also be able to like hang with anybody offensively. And I think the Sammy Blais comparison is a perfect one. Like just a guy like that who prides himself in scoring goals, but also like laying the big hits and bringing that physicality, I think, is a perfect comparison to Clem Costin.
I think that the physicality standpoint, I think the Sammy Blais is a good comparison, as in what he could be a factor in this season in the NHL if he does get called up. But I do still think that man has so much untapped potential offensively. It is incredible. I think to this day he can still potentially become a 30-goal scorer in the NHL, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. Wow. It's the fact that if he can, he's shown that he can be very emotional at times on the ice and off the ice, and that was also what led to him sliding down on draft boards, coming down to the Blues late in the first round. And I think he really needs to bounce back, and just not that he had a bad year necessarily, but he needs to solidify himself as his role with the organization. You know what I mean? Yeah. We kind of know where guys like Kyrou are at, and your Sammy Blais of the world. He ain't even a prospect anymore. But like Jake Wallman, for instance, Mitch Ranke, we'll talk about him coming up. But I think we don't know if Clem Costin today is going to be a guy like Sammy Blais, where he's going to fill into the bottom six, maybe a second line player, to where he can bang some bodies around and be more effective physically. Or if he's got that untapped potential to where he can become a top six forward and produce offensively as well. He's kind of in that tweener as of right now, but I'm still on the high horse with him. I think he's going to have an incredible career. I think this is a very, very important season for him, though.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, and then I guess you mentioned Mitch Ranke. I think we should definitely touch on him. He, came up almost out of nowhere. He was a college free agent. Blues added him near the end of last season. He played like one game with us, was, all right, nothing special. But then he goes down in the AHL, plays a full season there, and breaks the scoring record for a rookie defenseman. So I'm personally really excited to see what he can do, and maybe he gets a spot 7th D on with the big club next year.
I honestly wouldn't say I'd be surprised if he didn't, but kind of. Especially with a guy like obviously Del Zotto's an unrestricted free agent. I don't see him coming back. But even Gunnarsson, like if they do decide to let Gunnarsson walk, I don't think there's a doubt in anyone's mind that Reinke's going to be the guy that they pull up to take his spot. And maybe they sign like a free agent defenseman just as like, just in case. But I definitely think Reinke's going to get a really good look come training camp in October or whenever it is.
Here's where it gets tricky is Mitch Reinke is a right-handed shot. So say, for instance, like you just said, Carl Gunnarsson does, in fact, hit the open market and signs elsewhere. You can't necessarily just pencil in Mitch Reinke on that left-handed D because don't forget we got Edmondson, who's an RFA. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But the thing with me is it's going to come down to Bortuzzo versus Reinke. And I'm not going to even lie about this. I think it's going to be a battle in camp for that 6th defenseman spot on the 3rd defensive pairing for right-handed D. I think it's going to come down to Bortuzzo and Reinke. Yeah. And they both bring good capabilities to the club. And I do think we can see them rotating at times throughout the season compared to, say, for instance, the Boston Bruins are in town for their one of 2 games of the year. You're going to want a little more physicality. Bortuzzo, go ahead and get in the lineup. Or you got a team like Chicago in town. Okay, Mitch Reinke, we need that speed defensively. Go ahead and put him in the lineup. So it's going to add versatility to that Blues defensive core. But, yeah, do not sleep on Mitch Reinke whatsoever this year. No. He's special.
Yeah,
and he's ready, too. Yep. He showed us that this season.
Yeah, he's definitely ready, and he's power play. He was really good with Rampage on their power play, and if you watch a single Blues game this season and you watched one game, the one thing you could take away from it pretty much 100 times out of 100 is, wow, this power play sucks. So yeah. So
he can be that quarterback.
Definitely, he showed that. That's how we got. I mean, not a lot of his points, but that's how we consistently got points in the AHL, and how he was able to set that scoring record. So, I don't know, you guys. Anything else from prospect camp, or do you want to move on to free agency?
I have more stuff for prospect camp, but.
I mean,
I might just put out an article.
Yeah, we're at 43 minutes. We're at 43 minutes. So
I will put a little tidbit in. A little tidbit in here. A guy, maybe someone going to prospect camp next week. Who are the lower guys that could potentially stand out? A guy I think is a 2nd-round pick from last year, defenseman Scott Perunovich.
Yep.
This guy is kind of in that Mitch Reinke and Vince Dunn prototype. Like he's very offensively skilled.
Won Rookie of the Year, Tim Taylor Award for the Outstanding Freshman.
Good call on that.
He's a 2-time All-American, NCHC Offensive Defenseman of the Year. Won that twice too. So
I think big things are going to come from Perunovich. I do too. What
Especially leads me with all those accolades, like if you're talking about power play, he's another guy that stands out 100%.
He kind of fits that mold into like the new NHL style of where it's headed. I get the Blues won the cup with the physical play and stuff, but we just saw a guy like Cole Caulfield go to Montreal, 15th overall. He's 5'7". Who would Bowen Byram, for instance? Yeah. You're gonna need guys like Scott Perunovich, Vince Dunn.
Yeah,
Mitch Reinke. You're gonna need these guys.
Torrey Krug.
Torrey Krug.
You're gonna need these speedy defensemen.
He could have been. Torrey Krug could have been the Conn Smythe winner if the Bruins ended up winning it. He was ridiculous. He was ridiculous.
He was a choice.
He was so good, and even you saw that hit on Thomas. He can throw he can throw his weight around, definitely, but at the same time he's little, he's quick, he's super smart with the puck. And I think guys in his mold are starting to flourish in the NHL, and Scott Perunovich is that guy. He was an overager, completely slipped through the draft the year before, but the Blues took him pretty early, a 2nd-round pick, and he proved his worth, putting up another amazing season in college. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
I will touch on 2 more sleeper picks that I have for a prospect camp. So if you guys are going and don't really know a lot of the names, but outside of the big ones, two guys that I did find were really interesting. Matthias Laferriere had 74 points in 68 games played this season for the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles. And his teammate, Mitchell Balmas, is what played on the same team, had 82 points in 64 games played. And he was an undrafted, and he's just being invited to the camp. He went to training camp with Philly last year. But yeah, he was drafted 7th overall in 2014 QMJHL draft. So I think, especially that, saying he has the skill set and everything. He just needs to tap into it and get to that next level. And I think just going off last season, you're starting to see that because that was a massive uptick in points for him. So definitely keep an eye on those two guys, especially if they're on the ice together, because they're going to have that chemistry from playing all season together.
I'm excited to see Alexandrov too. We don't really know what he's about yet. I mean, we can go look back at highlights and such, but we always base this around prospect camp. I mean, whether you like it or not, that's a whole week that you can see them in live person on ice against other prospects on the team. So I want to see the likes of Alexandrov against Toropchenko, for instance. I think that'd be a good little matchup. Even the competitiveness of Klim Kostin. I want to see them get into some battles and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to see what they can do. I want to see how they can stand on their own,
And I know another standout last year was Hugh McGing. I think he's a little guy, plays with a lot of gumption.
Another little,
kind of reminds you of, kind of reminds you of a guy like Barbashev or Sundqvist, who does all the little things right. Good two-way player. He's not going to overwhelm you with his offensive capability, but he can score a goal from time to time. Like I said, he just kind of does all the little things right. So keep an eye on him.
Good speed. Yeah, he's got good speed.
Yeah, really good speed.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. Blues got a couple contracts up. I think, first of all, to start it off, I have the cap friendly pulled up here. I say we just go name by name, and we can all give our takes on whether or not we think they're going to come back. And then after that, we can kind of go more in depth. So, first one, UFA, Chris Thorburn. Honestly, I think that's a toss-up.
I think he's retiring. That's my hot take on that. I think he's done.
Yeah.
I think he's going to leave on a high note.
You could see just just from Armstrong pulling him up as a black ace, and just being in the locker room with the guys, and not even being in the locker room with the guys, but you could just tell being close to his family. I think there was an article about it, and just
it's about the insurance.
How he missed his family so much. It's dude, if that's not telling of a retirement or anything like that, I don't know what it is.
That's true.
I would agree with you, Joey.
I could be wrong here, but I think his kid has either Down syndrome or some sort of disease. And when you're in the AHL, I guess your contract has different insurance policies, and he wasn't covered with that. One of the reasons is that Doug Armstrong called him up was not just for the one last hoorah, let's see if we can get you a ring, Stanley Cup, blah, 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 but to give him insurance back for all the medical bills and stuff. That was in an article. I completely forgot who wrote that, but yeah, that was a very cool article that nobody would have even guessed. Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah,
props to what should have been the GM manager of the year, Doug Armstrong.
Yeah.
All right, next guy, hometown hero, Patty Maroon. He's definitely coming back.
Dude, I hope to God we bring him back.
I hope we do, yes. But he's gonna have to take a. He's not gonna have to take a discount. But let's say he decides to hit the open market. Compared to what other teams are gonna throw at him, the Blues will throw less, in my opinion. I think he's earned it. He's deserved it. I hope he comes back. I'm just simply saying, if he hits that open market, he will get more money from coming from elsewhere rather than the Blues.
Especially because of the Stanley Cup attached to his name now. He's going to get that pay raise.
I really think he's going to come back, but, man, that's going to be an interesting contract right there. 31 years old. We know he's the hometown guy. Great guy on and off the ice. Big locker room guy. We've seen that. We'll touch on some predictions on term and AAV here following up, but let's keep going on with the list.
All right. Next one, we're getting into RFAs now. Ivan Barbashev
has to come back.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's safe to say all the restricted free restricted free agents, my bad, will all come back. Doug Armstrong already stated they will all get qualifying offers, which means if nothing's agreed upon, they'll go to arbitration.
Being Barbashev, Fabry, Sanford, Sundqvist, and Blais. All right, moving on. Defense.
Whoa. And Jordan Bennington. Jordan Bennington.
He's a goalie. We were on forward.
Okay. I'm excited for that talk. I'm excited. Let's go.
We'll get there.
I'm excited for that one.
All right. So the two UFA defensemen, Michael Del Zotto, Carl Gunnarsson. I don't think Del Zotto comes back. I mean, if you guys want to dispute me there, you can. But I think we should just touch on Gunnarsson.
He's making $3 million, so that's $3 million off the cap space. I don't think he comes back either.
Yeah.
Very underrated in my opinion. Good defensively. We'll always remember that overtime goal in Game 2 in Boston to give us our first franchise win in the Stanley Cup Final. I do not think he'll be back though.
Yeah. I don't either. I think, in the nicest way possible, I think he's replaceable as far as the Blues organization goes. I think we got guys that can come in and fill in his role. Mm-hmm. And I think that overtime goal combined with his playoff run, I think he can get himself a nice payday out on the open market.
Credit to him on that. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was great to have, reliable defensively. You never really said, "Oh, what the hell is Gunnarsson doing?" He never really was that guy. But at the same time,
Carl.
He never said that. Never said that. But yeah, I think he hits the open market. I think he can get himself a nice contract. There's a lot of teams who need a guy like him to play that third pairing defensive, maybe even second pairing defenseman, depending on where.
Yeah, depending on the team. I agree. So what do we think about $3 million, 3.5, 4, 4.5 that range?
Yeah, something like that. Three to four.
I'd say 3. Yeah, three or 4.
All right, and here we go. Joe, you ready? The goalies.
Oh, man.
Goalies.
Who we got?
All right, the big one. UFA. Jared Cora, what do you think?
I'm playing.
All right, RFA, the big man on campus, Mr. Not Nervous, Mr. Rookie Goaltender Playoff Win Record, Jordan Binnington.
Mr. Hung like a horse.
Man,
unconfirmed.
There are so many different potential outcomes to this contract. It is mind-boggling. I don't know if they'll hit him with the bridge deal, the 2-3 year deal. I don't know if they're gonna go long-term, 5, 6, 7 year deal. I'll be shocked if they give him the max at 8. That's not gonna happen. But man, what do you guys think on this term? I'm almost 99% sure we're all gonna have different answers on this. So what do you think on term and years? Go ahead.
It seems to me that there's so many contracts that end in 2022 that I don't think it's an accident. So I'm going to say he's going to do bridge contract 3 years at 4 or 4.5. And that's just going off of like what Matt Murray made after he won the cup. Because I think he made like 3.75 or something. But obviously with like inflation and the cap going up, it's going to go a little bit higher. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there, Thomas. But I mean, I wouldn't. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he got the longer deal. But at the same time, we saw what happened. Right? We saw what happened with Jake Allen,
and that's why I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. He showed flashes of brilliance, and he got that longer deal. And now look what's happening. He regressed a little bit. He showed some more signs of weakness, and now we're stuck with this slightly too big of a contract. That's why I think a bridge deal is likely, but I think it's less likely than with a guy like Matt Murray, because if you remember, Matt Murray was playing behind Marc-Andre Fleury at the time, so
right, that's true.
He didn't have the argument of, well, I'm gonna be your starter next year no matter what, like Binnington has. He had but don't forget you're playing behind Marc-Andre Fleury, one of the greatest goalies in the NHL, so you got to kind of prove yourself. Jordan Binnington, I think if his agent wants to, could very well say, okay, Jordan's gonna be your starter next year. He's gonna be your number one, no question. So he deserves a bigger deal. So I agree. I think it's going to be a bridge deal. I would prefer a bridge deal, but I honestly have no idea. I think it could go either way for sure.
I agree. Let's go back to the Jordan Binnington agent talk. If you're his agent, how do you go into those negotiations saying Jake Allen is at 4.35 on the cap hit? hit me with something, Doug Armstrong. Like, I wish I could be a bug on the wall for those negotiations because, man, Jordan Bennington has literally all the leverage in the entire world that he could possibly have. Like, but I mean, there was rumors that, not rumors, but it was brought up in an article somewhere. Again, I forget where, that Doug Armstrong was kind of trying to balance it out to where, hey, we gave him the chance to come up, to where the Bennington side of things is like, look what happened when I came up. So they're kind of trying to meet a middle ground in a way, which I understand. But, man, I will be absolutely shocked if Jordan Bennington accepts anything under that 4.35 AAV of Jake Allen. I think we'll see a 2 to 3 year deal, anywhere from $9 to $11 million total. That'll put him at like 4.5 to $5.5 million cap hit. I think it'll be about the $5 million range. If I had to bet on it, I'd say 2-3 years, $5 million a year. That's my realistic guess.
I can see that. But again,
this could go so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely coming back. First of all, let's get that out of the way. He's coming back.
That's not even a question.
He's coming back. I've seen my buddy sent me a good old Blues Facebook thread.
The lounge.
The lounge. Let me see if I can. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. I got it right here. Not to put anyone on blast, but the quote was, and no team is going to lock up an eighth of their salary cap in their goalie duo, blah, 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 blah. So they're basically saying Binnington is gone unless they can dump Allen on a rebuilder or send a big contract away. I think, well, it's unfortunate that you're spending so much on your goalies. I think you don't just be like, oh, dang, you want $1 million or $2 million more than we're comfortable with, and you might not be as good as you were. We're just going to let you walk because, there's a chance he's going to not be as good, but there's also the chance that this is Jordan Bennington and he's going to put up close to, if not the same numbers consistently for years down the line, and you don't let that walk away. Not a chance.
Not at all. No. I think if I'm Jordan Bennington, I'm betting on myself. I take a 2-year deal. That's me. I want that third year as soon as possible to happen, just in case for your own protection. We've seen with Jake Allen, for instance. He's still got 2 years left on his contract. What's going to happen with that? We're trying to dump him. We all know that, but not necessarily. But we would like to get rid of that contract, obviously. But if you're Jordan Bennington, if it has to come down to a bridge deal, I'd take the 2 years rather than the third, just because I'd take a bet on myself and try to hit that third year quicker, per se.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, and then to touch on the other two players that are arguably coming back, we don't know for how much, Edmundson and Maroon. You guys want to maybe throw some guesses up as far as term and cap hit for those two guys, if you think both of them are coming back?
Man, that Edmundson one, that one's tricky. He came into the start of the season, he looked like he was going to be in for a breakout year. He put up some goals early on. Man, he just crumbled, though. He really did. We saw him get healthy scratch in the playoffs multiple times. He's become a liability at times in the playoffs with the puck in his own end. I mean,
a lot of turnovers.
His first pass exits are sometimes brutal, man. He's got to buckle up on those turnovers. I think he will improve. I love Joel Edmundson. I think he's a great player, but that definitely hurt his stock. I think we'll see. It's going to be another bridge. It's going to be a 2-3 year deal. AAV, again, I have no idea on this one. I'm saying anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 if I had to guess. Maybe. I'd be shocked at this point if he gets 4. I will be, just because his value decreasing over the playoff run, being healthy scratch. I don't think he hits that $4 million plus mark. I think that $3 million, $3.5 million range that Kyle Gunnarsson just made, perfect example, possibly.
Yep, I agree completely. I don't know. What do you think, Thomas?
I would agree as well. Just because, I mean, you've got Colton Parayko making 5.5, so you can't justify paying Joel Edmundson anywhere close to 5, really.
Right.
But I think 3 or 4 is a fair bet. I think, like what you were talking about, Joey, that 3-year range, especially because of the whole 2022 thing. Like, I'd agree with that. That's just my take.
Right.
Yeah, and then Patty Maroon. I honestly think it'll be around in the same AAV to Eddie, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see him sign a long-term deal, because I think, the reason he came here, he wanted to be with his son. He's from St. Louis, hometown boy. He loves it here, and you could see that throughout the playoffs, and I think the team loves having him. So I would not be surprised to see the team lock him up on a longer-term deal. I think the cap hit is going to be a little bit higher than fans expect, and maybe are initially comfortable with. But I think it goes back to, you got to look past the numbers when it comes to a guy like that. You got to look at the glue guy, the locker room, the chemistry, the hyping the boys up, that sort of thing. I think with a guy like Patrick Maroon, it's the intangibles that are worth every penny. I pray that he's back for. I hope that he retires blue. That's my take on it.
I really think the chemistry thing affected his early on struggles, production wise. Let's say he started off October 1st already with that built up chemistry with the line of Maroon, Bozak, and Thomas. Like, how many points could he have put up, you guys think, if that line was put together with the chemistry they have today back in October 1st? What do you think? 40, 50 point score? I mean, that would increase big time for him.
Yeah.
But that chemistry, it took a little bit to get developed. I mean, it's not live. So I think that we could see two different things. History tells us Doug Armstrong's going to go 3-4 years here with the Alexander Steens of the world and so on. But
yeah,
I don't know. He's been getting burned on those. I mean, you got Alexander Steen as a fourth liner right now, making $5.75 million on the cap hit at 35 years old as a fourth line winger.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that again to yourself? Going back to the Jordan Bennington, Jake Allen talks, you've seen how he burned himself there, giving Allen the long-term extension. First glimpse he saw greatness out of him. So we've seen how that burned him. I'm interested to see what he gets. I'm interested to see what Maroon gets from Doug Armstrong. I don't know. I really don't know. I think we can either see something along those lines of 3-4 year deal. Maroon's 31 years old, or we can see a 2-3 year deal. Maybe I'm saying 3 years, anywhere from $3 million to $4.5 million AAV. How about that? That's about my.
Damn, Joey. That's almost exactly what I was gonna say. Just because, like 2 to 3 years. I think anyone in the Blues, any of the Blues fans and anyone in the organization would be happy with signing Maroon for anything under 5. The only prop, so if he comes back, I feel like it'd be that 3 to 4.5 range for 2 to 3 years. Yep. But the problem is one of those bottom feeder teams that's looking for a big guy net front presence. I feel like could easily come in and say, hey, we'll pay you 5.
Especially seeing the role he played on this cup run. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at
complete opposite to Joel Edmondson.
Yeah. You look at him in the offseason. We know for a fact that he took a pay cut to sign here. We know for a fact that there were teams offering him more money and more term, and he chose here. And you've seen him talk about his son and playing in St. Louis. He gets emotional, tears up. I think he loves it here, and I think unless Doug Armstrong comes in and says, and completely lowballs him, I think he's back. I think even if it is a case of taking $1 million less per year, I don't think he is the type of guy that's going to walk away after a year just to get a couple more million. And again, even if he is, go for it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got the cup to St. Louis, right?
Absolutely. If you want to go ball out and someone offers you 6.5, even if someone offers you, like you were saying, Josh, like $1 million more, and you want to take the more money, like absolutely go for it. Like your name is already chiseled in infamy in this city, like right next to David Freese. There's nothing you can do to like take that away from these fans, and we appreciate your time with us. But going back to him playing on the line and like what his points could have looked like, Robert Thomas didn't even find his like real footing in the NHL until I feel like halfway through the season. So. Just given that and playing on a line with him all season long, plus that chemistry, I feel like he could have scored close to 20 goals, if not more. But I don't know. I could see him taking a hometown discount, but at the same time, he took a massive discount this year to bet on himself so he would make more money. So I could also see him being like, I'm not doing that again,
this is also my perspective into this as to where he gets that 2-3 year deal or that 4 or 5 year deal in a way. I think whatever he gets is going to tell us what Doug Armstrong thinks about the prospects, the Dominic Box, the Clem Costins, the Jordan Kyries of the world. Because you're not going to give Pat Maroon a 4 or 5 year contract at 31 years old if you think guys like Costin, Kyrou, Bach are 1 to 3 years away per se. You know, like you got to keep that in mind that these guys are coming up. I think he's going to hit that 3 year deal. That's my opinion. I'm saying 3 years. $4 million AAV, maybe $4.5 million. I think it's going to be right around there. If Father Time does do its damage and that second, third year kind of decreases, okay, we can drop him back to that third, fourth line, be a hitter, be more physical, take on that Alexander Steen role like we see right now, you know. And it's a lot less damaging to the Blues and the cap with just that last 2 year deal right there, you know.
Yeah, and all right, just to wrap things up, couple Twitter questions. The one thing, the common theme that we saw, a lot of people asking about the power play. You got Ferry, shout out Ferry, big part of RTN.
Love Ferry.
Love him.
If you guys don't follow Ferry on Twitter, absolutely do it, because as far as graphic design goes, he's easily the best guy on there. So
for sure. And you also got I'm gonna get these names wrong, Matthew Tradewa and Kathy Bilbray, all asking about the power play next year and how is the power play going to improve, because again, it was awful this year. I think, and that's where I think a guy like Mitch Ranke comes in. I think what the Blues were lacking was that power play quarterback, that, you know, that one guy that can sort of take control. I feel like the problem with the Blues power play is they were just too lateral, too X's and O's, just trying to set up that perfect play. I think if you get a guy that's kind of built for that power play role, that can see the ice differently when it's a 5-on-4, a guy like Ranke, a guy like maybe Vince Dunn can grow more into that role. And then also I think you have to edit the scheme a little bit to get rid of that sort of just left to right movement, and more, you saw it when Robert Thomas would do his patented, he would cut up the boards and then button hook right back to the net. Just more dynamic plays like that. I think you get players that are more power play specialists to sort of bring their own unique style to the power play. I think that would be a big help for St. Louis.
I think I definitely agree about Ranke, and even if you take a guy like Scotty Perunovich, can come in and insert himself into that role eventually. But as far as like the schematic goes, I think like the game plan, obviously, in all facets of our offense, I guess the power play included, the power play was kind of built off of like cycling pucks down low and playing from behind the net and trying to get that tap in right in front of the goal. And then we realized that, Robert Thomas can take the puck through the neutral zone, through the offensive zone, curl back and do it again if he wants to. So I think we might see it based around that more. And something else that I noticed is a lot of times, like, I guess in lining up for that tap in, the other forward just kind of fell in place and were lined up for more possession instead of like a firing squad, instead of like with a team like Tampa Bay that you see who's just like working on those one-timers all the time. So I'd like to see I think we did it one game with David Perron near the face-off dot, and he was firing one-timers. But I'd like to see a lot more of that, because those cross-ice passes, especially if you got a guy like Tarasenko who can cradle the puck and shoot, or just swing it like 90 degrees across the ice for a one-timer, like that's lethal. And I'd like to see us tap in more into that. I'd like to see Pietrangelo work on keeping pucks in the zone, because it seemed like there were a lot of times the puck bounced over his stick.
Yes.
I'd like to see Colton Parayko get a little more accurate, but as far as like on the power play, honestly, I feel like Vince Dunn deserves to be on the top line, just because his blue line play is ridiculous.
Yeah, his keep-ins are great. Yeah,
and just offensively, like he's showing time and time again that he can cut the puck down low, or he can score on a slapper from up top. So I think all of those things combined are going to be weighed in the offseason, and even towards the end of the Stanley Cup Finals, you saw Berube talking about, like, we understand this is not the power play we want, and they said they changed it, but I don't think we ever got a chance to see the new and improved one.
Very slightly. It was very slightly subtle change. You couldn't even tell.
Yeah. But I think it was game 6 where we pulled the goalie at the end. They had Parayko up top, kind of in like an umbrella, and then two guys like near the face-off dot. So if it looks like that, I'm fine with that too. Just you just got to switch it up, got to get more production with the man advantage, because otherwise teams are just going to penalize us, and there's nothing we can do about it. So
you guys did a good job touching on the quarterback of the power play right there. In my opinion, it comes down to Vladimir Tarasenko. What boggles my mind is that on the power play, he's on his strong side wing, which would be his left wing because he's a left-handed shot. Yeah. When he's playing 5-on-5, he's on his off wing like most Russians do. He's on the right wing with the blade is in the center of the ice per se. If you don't know what that means. So I think we're gonna see Tarasenko work on his one-timers, slap shots, all that stuff over the offseason, big time. I think we're gonna see that early next year. I think he's going to stay on that right wing, and I think he's going to be, in my opinion, that is so much potential right there. We see how the guys like Ovechkin and Stamkos can just sit on that left dot and just fire pucks away in the office. You look on the umbrella. I think Tarasenko needs to be utilized a lot better, especially because I don't think the problem with the Blues power play is necessarily the passing aspect, but the shooting, the burying, the finishing, getting to the dirty areas. I think that's what they need to improve. And I think that all comes down to Tarasenko and whoever else is on those wings, maybe like a Perron or Schwartz or someone like that, a Shin. Mm-hmm. Guys, we need to fire that puck more on net, because I really think we're getting like, one maybe. If we get 2-3 shots on a power play, we think it's all right, good 2 minutes. It shouldn't be like that, I think. Right. I think Tarasenko is going to improve right there. Is it not wild that we're talking about a Stanley Cup champion having this bad of a power play?
Yeah, no kidding.
That is insane.
It's crazy.
Especially with how great Boston's was. It was like
it was complete opposite. All right, we have been recording for a long time, so we got one final question, and I think, Joey, this one's perfect for you. It comes from intern Maddie, friend of our team.
Maddie, love Maddie.
The question is pretty simple, and again, Joey, all yours. It's am I allowed to sleep yet?
Absolutely not. Not until July 1st. You're probably only going to get about a 30-minute cat nap because it's going to be free agent frenzy. One of the best days of the year. Up there with trade deadline, draft, all that stuff. We're going to see movement. Going to see a lot of movement, whether it's the Blues, whether it's whoever. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. No sleeping until July. Shirts are on sale online. rtnshop.bigcartel.com. Get one while the supplies last. I probably ain't going to sleep until August, if I'm being honest. This is still insane. Shirts coming soon. We sleep in August, baby.
Merch shop number 2. No, but all right. Yeah, so that was the first episode of the Blue World Order podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. Follow us on Twitter at BWO Podcast RTN. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. If you guys want to shout out your Twitter handles real quick.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Twelcher15.
Follow me at Palzola_RTN, and also follow the Respect the Note account at Respect the Note.
Right. And keep an eye out for more content. We're going to have articles from Respect the Note online. Obviously, I'm going to try and get a more in-depth prospect profile out for you guys. I'm going to try and get that out before the first day of camp. So you guys can check that out and kind of see who people are going into camp. And give us some feedback. Tell us what you think. Tell us how bad we suck ass at doing this, or tell us you think we're great.
Stay tuned to find out who we bring in some guests as well, because I got a fun guest that's coming up. Let me tell you. I got about 10 names that are ready to come on here and join us on here. We got some hot takes coming, some good personalities.
Fun. Gonna be lots of fun, lots of guests, lots of fun stuff to talk about, and it's only the off season. It's the off season right now. We got. Look at it. We've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes. So we got lots of stuff in the works. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.